dates for this. For the census, that was 12.
The week of 12/17 through 1/12,
week of 1.
but they'll let us know that it's very essentially has to do with the funds being in
Right.
the community because they're intended on putting the transfer pictures Friday, January 2nd.
Oh, wow.
So
How are you then?
they're closing off a bigger window, but really the 19th through the 31st is the hard deadline. I just used the wider deadline for the ones that did it.
Yeah. Yeah. What must have gone
Way.
It says it's a good idea.
I don't know the clock that wasn't working.
They look like it, but they're a little heavy, you know, they're really thin. I'm like, wow. You have to like unclick up like. You do, just like.
We had one of those, not quite so big, but large one, it was just big enough where, like, gotta get there. Good.
Isn't it cool? I'm like, what? I think it's something like that, you know.
But it was one of those that had the atomic clock, and watch the thing be on,
Just one.
and then
Oh, yeah.
back up and see, just see it.
It's
You know,
right.
it's quick movements and
Make sure.
We'll make it quick though.
Oh,
Be done by 4, so we can.
Skyhook. Basketball over.
You live?
You are live.
I have a call to order for the Desert Healthcare District meeting of Finance, Legal, Administrative, and Real Estate Committee meeting. It is 3:18 PM on November 18th, 2025. Can I have approval of the agenda?
So moved.
Second. Meeting minutes from October 14th are there and available to review. Are there any questions on that?
No questions.
Any public comments?
No public comments.
Okay,
I'll move approval of the minutes as submitted.
I will second that. Public comments, Desert, you didn't copy my language, I gotta go over here. Almost have it memorized. At this time, comments from the audience may be made on items not listed on the agenda that are of public interest and within the subject matter jurisdiction of the district. The committee has a policy of limiting speakers to not more than 3 minutes. The committee cannot take action on items not listed on the agenda. Public input may be offered on an agenda item when it comes up for discussion and or action. Any public comments at this time?
I don't think so. Mr. Mafio,
Yeah,
did you have any public comments related to anything that's not on the agenda?
no,
Okay,
just here to learn a little bit about this wonderful organization.
Oh, great. Thank you.
okay.
Just to have you. Okay. On to the Chief Executive Officer's report.
The only thing I just wanted to mention is that, we're transitioning from principal to a census with our retirement plans. And we just wanted to point out that there's a blackout period from, it's currently set up between December 17th and January 12th of 2026. So during that window, there'd be no activities that, any participants could do in the system while the funds are being transferred and confirmed and all of that. So just wanted to communicate that information.
Thank you.
Is there any concern from any of the staff?
We're keeping them communicated with, and they will also be informed once the monies, there's always a little bit of concern. It's like, okay, what happens if something doesn't get transferred appropriately in that? But, we have to rely on the expertise of these organizations to make that transition. So I'm sure each individual, like myself, will look at what my balance is now and what it will be when it's transferred. And
Thank you.
should be pretty close, hopefully.
A little off the top. All right. Thank you, Chris. On to the Chief Administrator Officer report. Updates on the Medical Plaza.
Yep, so I am starting on page 10 of the packet. Just wanted to note that we will be having some future projects brought to the committee in the coming months, which are related to maintenance at the Medical Plaza. We'll be seeking public bids for some various projects, such as grading along Toshiba, looking to repaint and repair some of the eaves that throughout the property, just to make sure we're protecting the wood there. There'll be some sidewalk repairs on the entrance from Toshiba as well, because some of the curbing needs to be replaced. And then we're also gonna be looking to have some sewer repairs done on there, just as we have some aging cast iron pipes throughout the property. We've had a handful of repairs we've been doing, addressing here and there, and so we want to be proactive about getting to those before it potentially poses any issues. So those will be coming, in the coming months, once we can get the full package, bid package together, and get more information on the pricing and whatnot. Also been experiencing a handful of miscellaneous repairs, which is noted on an informational item later on in today's agenda. Primarily, it's a few projects to address potential safety concerns. So we're presenting those just to keep the committee informed on some of the stuff that's going on at the Medical Plaza. We're still 100% occupied. Annual rent, including CAM fees, is estimated at 1.6 million right now and some change. And we will have a 3-year lease proposal included in today's agenda for Suite 1 West, 105, 106. I can answer any questions you have on the CAO report.
What would be the profitability on our last promise medical class at the end of the year? Do you have an idea of like, I know what we've collected in revenue, but then in terms of expenses and all that, do you have an estimate of what we've?
I can pull from the budget what I don't know what I don't know. And so we budgeted in some expenses having to relate to potential flood repairs when we get some rain there. And we're gonna have that be expected until we can get that
What's the
grading.
trailing 12?
Typically, we're around 200, 250. Per year.
I figured that's kind of was ballpark in my head was about 250. I mean, doesn't have to be. So you've earned about 250.
The one item that is included in here, the sewer repairs, that seems to be a little bit more potentially costly. So we don't know yet what the scope of the project is gonna be.
No, because we have a total of 6 buildings on the property. We have been addressing a handful of them already. And so one of the buildings we've replaced in small pieces, almost all the piping on one floor there. And so due to that, we want to make sure we're looking at being proactive. And so it could be, up to a couple $100,000, but we're working on developing that scope with Rick Likens from Inpro Construction just to find out exactly what we're looking for. And that way we can.
And you had budgeted for that? Or
This particular one wasn't specifically budgeted in the capital budget for this because it was something that wasn't expected. But as I prepare next year's budget for our capital projects, we will account for all of that element.
Do we, when we have a large capital expenditure, it's not just like routine maintenance, do we need to take this out for, bids?
Yeah, when we're looking at 25,000 or more, we do have to make sure it's prevailing wage. And then when we start getting into the 100,000, there's just a few different public elements that we have to do for bidding and where we're posting and then potentially
We'll review all of those when they get presented, once the scope of work is identified.
Yeah, because we'll bring any of that, we'll bring, like the bid documents so that it's all transparent and being seen and before we put it out for the public bid process. So.
What specifically is the full scope of that problem they've identified?
We don't know. I mean, like Eric,
I'm sorry, the sewer.
Sewer, yeah.
Well, what it is, it's cast iron pipe throughout. And so some of the fittings that have been replaced over time that's using rubber seals are starting to fail. And so Impro's been addressing those repairs because it's usually more of an emergency basis if something starts leaking or there's any sort of smell to it. So they've been addressing the couplings that are there and then replacing the cast iron with the PVC pipe. That way it'll last longer in there because some of the cast iron's even cracked at this point because it's many decades old.
Sometimes you just gotta rip the Band-Aid off and get it done.
Yeah,
that's why we're kind of looking at.
Based on our current setting and how it's structured and how we own it and the finances on it, it might be better just to say, hey, this is a long-term asset. We might as well just invest more in the full upkeep so that 20 years from now, we haven't just dealt with these little issues. Because if it's cast iron drainage, that's terrible.
Well, it is, and
It just causes problems.
putting these tenants in a compromising situation where we're responding
And
versus being
us, from an
proactive
insurance standpoint and all that,
with it. So we just don't know until, you open up walls and ceilings and whatever and.
They need to get bids for like right around like July. When nobody's got enough work. Don't ask the contractor to come over right now. They're slammed.
it's still a couple months, no matter what we do, because we have to prepare the solicitation, we'll bring it here,
Yeah, it's good.
go and then put it out and then bring it back.
I guess I brought up just to say, I'd like to see a full scope of what repairs this for long term and not just one or two touch-ups. It's like if you had knob and tube wiring, like you should just go through and replace it all. If you have the CapEx for it, and we do, so that you have a good structure, less headache, all that. So anyways, okay.
Absolutely agree. All right.
Thank you for that. And then financial reports.
All right, so starting on page 13 of the packet. I was just gonna highlight for the first 4 months year to date, highlight a few of these numbers. So income's up approximately 352,000 the first 4 months of the year. It's primarily due to interest income and market fluctuations, which is a common report on these meetings here. Our LPMP income is up approximately 33,000. That just has to do with the annual increases that we have going on, which most of our contracts are a annual increase of the greater of 3% or CPI, as well as when we're budgeting a little conservatively just in case, something happens and one of the tenants decides to leave or try to end their contract early. So up about 33,000 year to date for the plaza in income. Direct expenses are down. A lot of this is due to just lower wages. We have a couple positions we were intending on hiring throughout the remainder of the fiscal year. And then just related expenses having to do with education, travel, food, whatnot, were based around the quantity of positions we had. So far, the medical plaza expenses, those are down overall, but we do have higher plumbing expenses. That kind of ties into the sewer piece because we have been addressing a handful of items as they come up. And then we have professional fees down year to date, but with that, it's a variation when the services are needed throughout the year and the budget's evenly spread. So as we start getting more done with the strategic plan, that will start changing and reducing that deficit that we have so far. On this, I don't have anything else specific. I wanted to go over the income on the categories that were standing out, and then I don't have anything until we get farther in on the balance sheet and whatnot. So I can jump through the notes that I have and then answer any questions you may have, unless you had anything before there. Okay.
We go through it all.
Sounds good. What I would jump to then next is on page 18 is the balance sheet. I just wanted to note here, overall, our positions increased approximately 6 million since this time last year. That's kind of a combination of increased property tax received last year and the expenses coming in under budget. That's really been the driver there, and that ends up being excess funds that we've put into our investment accounts.
Is that, look, for our balance sheet, I know we have some planned expenditures that haven't been, we'll see it come up when we talk about grants to go out. How do you manage that on the balance sheet if you have an expected, 3 or 4 million that are going to come out on our grant payment schedule? Do you account for that in the balance sheet, or is that just going to be a cash balance adjustment later? Does that question make sense?
It would show up on our income statement later on once we expense it. Whenever those grants come up, at this point, what we're going to reflect here is related to that. It's our available cash, and then on the liabilities will show up the balances of the grants we've awarded already.
Got it. So this is year over year, but we could expect by the end of the year, the balance, we may not have 6 million. We may have still more grant payments to go out that'll adjust that asset difference. So we're not accounting for it in like a work in progress standpoint, or like, costs in excess of billings or billings in excess of costs. So we're
not typically on the balance sheet. And
okay.
Even when we do that, when we award them, what it'll really do is just shift our retained earnings into grants payable.
Right.
Until we have to.
Right. But there's no way to say, hey, this is on the balance sheet. Because I always think about working capital when I think about funds going in and out, and making sure, fortunate for us, we have a large fund of money that working capital, we're never going to probably exceed that, but you don't really have that captured in a current asset or current liability, even though the grant payment schedule probably is a current liability if it's for 12 months out.
No, and really what we look at is, like, we'll look out a window, like, grants team will provide, a cash payments, estimated cash payment schedule. So let's look at that and we'll determine, okay, how much money should we keep in our
budgeting
main checking account? So there's the 1,000 there that has the 2.6 million.
Yep.
Versus the investment account of the 73 million. So
You're
it's
balancing.
a function of moving monies back and forth between those two accounts and
Perfect.
capturing as much return on investment in the investment account as we can.
So
So
it's really being actively managed, which is actually probably better than the alternative where you just leave it there in anticipation of it coming in and out over a long period of time.
right.
Those are really the main things. So unless there's any other questions, I can address everything's pretty normal.
Kind of what we expected at the beginning of the year too. We expected to see some assets increase as our income went up, so. All right. Anything in the other categories here?
Nope, not specifically to identify all of our income.
I do want to mention, on page 1 of 1, the credit card, bill, the dinner that we went to, we're in September 25th. Can you let me know how much Dennis's, amount was so I could reimburse that district for that amount too? I should have mentioned that before, sorry.
Yes.
That was the only thing.
That's it?
Mhm.
Well,
You're doing a great job, Eric.
I know. Keep her. And anything from the CEO discretionary fund
No.
that you want to pull up? I didn't see anything either. All right. Any final comments from Chris? Anybody on the finances?
No.
Okay. Public comments before we take a vote?
No, thank you, but I thought I was in the district, I'm west of Hood in Palm Desert, so.
Okay. Make a motion to approve the finances as we've reviewed today.
I'll second it.
Great. Other matters, start with the new lease for Dr. Mush.
Yep, on page 38.
Oh, we do need to vote on the financials if we didn't.
We did. Oh,
We did.
Let's try. We can vote.
You can ask the question. All those in favor?
All those in favor?
Aye,
Aye.
we voted.
That's pretty nice.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Thanks for catching that, Chris.
That was Eric.
So,
Louder, he took your credit.
it's, we have a 3-year lease here for, Dr. Mush, who is one of the partners, in Cohen, Mush and Thomas, who currently, have been a longstanding tenant of the plaza. Their existing suite is expiring on November 30th. So we've had a request just for one of the partners to enter into a 3-year lease to, start when the current one expires. It's at one of our standard rate increases, so it'll be a 3-year lease with the annual increase of the 3% or the CPI. Got a tenant improvement allowance of $10 a square foot, and we have our draft lease included for review, and we recommend approval. Pretty straightforward.
Move approval.
I'll second that. All in favor? Oh, public comment? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, on to the RGS consulting agreement.
And that would be on page 68 of the packet. Let me pull up my sequence here. Okay, so what we're looking at here is we do have a current services agreement, human resources consulting services agreement with Regional Government Services, or RGS. That current agreement lasts through December 31st, 2025. What we'd like to do is execute addendum number 1, which will increase the compensation by $25,000 and extend the expiration date to June 30th, 2026. That value was already anticipated in the budget, and so that way we can continue to use their services in support of the HR function when might be something they need that additional insight on.
And you've pretty much been directly working with them, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Consultant for that side. And
Well, Chris,
you've been satisfied?
Yeah.
I
Much better than what we previously had.
Is it? I mean, I like their scope of work that we had them provide last time. It's in here again, Exhibit A. I think it's nice to have that for our HR versus hiring an HR manager and then building on this. This is, I think, an effective use of.
And I kind of foresee you know, the dollars being spread out a little bit more because we have been having them focus quite a bit on our employee handbook over this last, you know, few months. And that's pretty well finalized, just waiting for our legal counsel to take a look at it, and then we'll publish that in the next month or two. And then essentially we're using them for as we need for, you know, HR related issues or expert questions that we need to ask to ensure that we're compliant.
The handbook yet?
No,
We haven't seen
Yeah,
it.
you haven't seen a draft yet. Okay,
No.
all right.
Correct.
That's something I think we'll take a look at closely, see, so.
So my question, okay, so my question is, why is it necessary to do an amendment? Why don't we just have a yearly or or multi-year lease with them? I know that it was the first year that we wanted to see whether it worked, but if you're happy with them, why wouldn't we enter into a multi?
We had talked about doing a year, but then we thought, well, and we want to do a year with them at a time. But we thought, why don't we get them on a fiscal year cycle? So that's why we're only extending it to June. And then we'll look at doing an annual basis after that.
Thank you.
And they bill directly to that, to you guys?
Yes.
Bill off
Yeah,
that.
based on their hours that they've provided, they submitted an invoice for.
Okay,
I'll move approval.
I'll second it. Public comment? None? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Other consulting agreement?
Yep, so the next item we have on page 76, another addendum for an existing agreement. With this particular one, it would be addendum number 3 to our consulting services agreement with DeVoe Bird Group. Provided the legislative work, which has been very helpful as we started the legislative committee, legislative policy committee. And so what this amendment is going to do is extend the current $7,500 per month through the remainder of the fiscal year. And then I think with this one as well, we would like to align that with our fiscal year going forward. But as we started this work, we had done a smaller one, I believe was at the request of the committee and board. Otherwise, we probably would have gone with the full fiscal year at that point. So draft is included here and recommend approval.
Hearing from Kimberly last time we met, she's been very happy with them. I'm happy. I like the reports they send us. I think it keeps us active in Sacramento.
Mhm.
You know, as we figure out our strategic plan, I think having partners is valuable. So support that.
I agree. I will move approval.
Second it. Any public comment? None? Take a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Next topic.
Yep, the next item we have here is a staff salary range update for the Chief of Community Engagement position. What we're looking at here is normally through our annual budgeting process, we'll establish the board approved range for each position. In this particular case, the current salary range for the position doesn't allow for any additional increases beyond the annual merit increase. So due to the expanded requirements of the position, we would like to expand that range to allow for the CEO to authorize any additional increases. So what we're requesting is to increase the range, which is currently 110 to 175. We're requesting to increase the upper limit to 185,000. So this would be something that would be covered under our current fiscal year budget, as we're currently under budget for the wage expenses for the year.
And how's the range created?
Range, we've typically,
Data for it.
I don't know when we first set it up.
We've typically, I mean, really over the last few years, it's just with the merit increases, if they start creeping up against the upper limits of those ranges, then we bump them up to cover that. You know, part of what we were wanting to do with the compensation survey with RGS was to help us then identify if we're in upper ranges and limits with that. So I feel comfortable that we're in appropriate ranges, but to have a I'd rather have a
I prefer.
actual study done.
I would prefer to have, I don't know, you run a nonprofit, so you have ideas probably more than I do, but I think nothing good or bad or against or for, but I think just being a public body, really having the backing to say why we're increasing thing above, and it's not just, oh, you know, we like the guy, or we think he's doing a great job, or she's doing a great job. I think that just gives us as a board something to stand on. Say, you know, here's how we're supporting our people. Here's I think RGS should be able to do that. I mean, they have a consulting agreement with us.
Well, that's why we wanted to do the compensation study that was postponed.
I know.
So I would really like to have that done for us, because I'd like to ensure that we're, you know, doing the ranges that are appropriate.
How does this compare? Again, they should do that. We should engage RGS and just give us a baseline kind of where we are and what the expected changes should be across the board, you know, for the next 4 or 5 years. So that compensation survey should last us, you know, 4 or 5 years, you know.
I agree, once that's done, but I don't know that they're, because I've tried talking to them about, you know, can you give us an idea of, you know, the ranges that we're using right now are, you know, do you feel that they're good ranges or not? And, you know, they want to go through the compensation survey to.
But is that interviewing people, or is that like actually looking at current pay data across nonprofits and public sectors?
I think they'd have to be looking at public versus nonprofit, because
We have a foundation too that's here, but yeah, you could.
so
Support both.
so in their process was going to be, you know, across the board with essentially public entities and different things, not only locally, but also in regional healthcare districts. And, you know, there's variations in the healthcare district components too, whether they're, you know, people that are operating hospitals or if they're just strictly grant making organizations, et cetera. So, and location as well.
The only thing that I have a question is, it says on here in the report that you have updated the job description. So is the job description available to share? What were the changes?
Did we say that
Yeah.
Okay. Really, there's what I was looking at with working with our chief of community engagement is more of the kind of the expanded as far as like with our summit work and, you know, all the work that's gone into that with the mobile clinic, et cetera. I just felt that there were.
I agree. Okay.
Could you, I would request that you review the job description and that you would have it reflected that there are some special projects, for example, something like that, but just to actually coincide with what is being said here, that the increase is due to expanded requirements of the position, that there are some reflecting the requirements with respect to position. So to actually have that be formally in writing. So I know that you're going to be having your consultant review all of them, but if this is going ahead of that, then it should go along with having something in writing.
Okay, and kind of looked at it as, you know, that there's, you know, job or duties as assigned.
But you could use, for example,
But we
those
can-
things that you just mentioned
can
are
add some-
perfect examples, so.
Yeah, it just helps to have it documented or, you know, public dollars going to something, just making sure we can explain things. And then I think getting that compensation survey, I don't know what the timeframe is on that, if it's 3 months, 2 months. Imagine it takes some time for them to do all that data.
You need to bring it back for your approval, because you
I know.
can't stop.
Why did we nix it the first time? Do you remember?
You thought it was too much money, you didn't think we needed it. You decided to maybe.
Coming back to me now, yeah.
There was something else going on though. I think it was around the strategic plan. I think a lot of the
We
things
wanted
that
to
we
wait
can.
until after the
It
strategic
was like,
plan.
get the strategic plan in place, understand more positions you may hire and kind of have a full expansive, what I remember.
Yeah, that's what I remember too. So it's gonna happen, so.
Yeah.
So I move approval. But if you could just make some changes on the job description just to go in line with what is being implied here.
Do you feel, would it be best to bring that compensation study back once we get the strategic planning done?
Yeah,
or-
that's kind of what I was hoping for, is to get that plan in place, and then along with the strategic growth plan is obviously an employment plan. With that, you need to have an idea of how you recruit, how you compensate. This plan. They line up very well.
And that's kind of why we're trying to get the compensation study done, so we would have that.
But if you don't know who you're having a strategic plan, or you're gonna be hiring a GM person to work, there's a whole lot of positions that could fall under that.
Okay, well, we'll hold off then.
Yeah, and wait and kind of revisit it. What do you think?
Yeah.
Maybe we can bring it up at the board. Maybe we should ask the whole board about how they want to handle kind of getting, when was the last time we did a compensation survey?
I don't want it to hurt the organization, and I think that it's not hurting the organization. This particular example here, you're bringing it forward, and I think that even though it's kind of ahead of the game, but you have a reason why, and so if anything else is also necessary to act on before we do the compensation study, I expect that you'll bring it forward.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
I mean, is that your opinion as a CEO? This should be acted on before compensation survey?
This particular item, yes, I do, I feel that.
Yeah.
But I mean, to your point of, asking if we got validation of backup, I can't offer that.
I would say that you're implying here that you have a need to do it because he has additional duties. Just put that in the job description. And if you could provide some examples, the ones you just provided verbally are perfect examples.
Mhm.
So.
Yeah, for the all right, that's fine. I'll second your approval.
Okay.
Sure. And I think for all the other ones, let's decide on the compensation survey, maybe put it as an agenda item.
I think we're fine for now. There was just this one that was,
We just like to know
what the limit we have.
how it lines up across the board. So let's put that as an agenda item for the meetings. This obviously will be voted on there, but compensation survey.
Why don't we bring it back in December? That way we could discuss the pros and cons at that time. We could put a recommendation. It's just around the corner.
Sure.
So that we wouldn't spend too much time on the board talking about it.
Okay,
Yeah, works. So should we bring the concept of the compensation
Yes.
study or the actual compensation study
bring the actual study.
document? Okay, got it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And pardon me, did we approve?
Yes.
He just hasn't asked for the public.
Thank you.
We're still commenting, yes. Public comment? All in favor?
Yes.
And Letty moved it, or you did?
Yeah, she moved. I think that's been the routine today. So Jermaine is back.
Yeah, so what we did there, I would have brought it through sooner, although I just had learned from the Germain folks right after the last study session. So we knew that we were continuing with a future study session. Hopefully we'll get that scheduled before long. But they were also doing some continued work, and we also met with Intercare team today to discuss some of the data requests that Jermaine had requested. So not to delay that, I executed then an additional addendum for the 25,000. So this informational bring it to your attention.
Information.
Got it. More information on number 6, that the repairs.
Yes, so on this particular item,
Go ahead.
okay, I want to make sure. On this particular item, so this is an informational item. So we just want to highlight, we utilize Impro Construction as a property maintenance company. And so these items that we have here are kind of a combination of me inquiring about different elements and them bringing back items, or them identifying situations that need to be rectified in order to save future expenses. And so the values that I've put in here are based on Impro's estimates. I have asked them to reach out to try to get some other ones, even though it's not required at that dollar value because it's not being publicly bid. I just wanted to see what else was out there. On several of these items, they're just not getting a whole lot of feedback because they are on the lower end. So we kind of had a similar situation several months back when we did a concrete ramp where they weren't getting bids on it because of the dollar value. And so we ended up utilizing Inpro on there. And so just wanted to bring these to your attention. A couple of them had to do with like repairing sidewalk areas where some of the roots of the trees are pushing up some concrete where it could create a trip hazard. A couple changes in the way that stamped concrete, what's allowed and what's not allowed. Before we put some different types of stamped concrete in there, where now the lip that's on there is on the verge of being too deep compared to what's allowable with new construction. So we're looking to repair some of those sidewalk areas, to replace truncated domes, which I only recently learned what those were, as far as the dots that are near intersections on the curb. So that way visually impaired folks can tell where the road starts and sidewalks end. And so this is related to a change in how those go about. Before, they used to be something that could be added on top. All the new requirements are for them to be sunk into the ground so there isn't a lip there. And so we're looking to replace those truncated domes that are not only worn, but also have that little bit of a lip. Looking to do a roof repair on one of those specific buildings. We used a specific type of layered roof sequence so that way it could be easily repaired. And as we've tried to find others to specifically give quotes, they're trying to replace a bigger piece, and that's not what we're looking for. What Inpro is looking to do is to specifically repair it in that layered function, and that way it get the benefit of that type of roof. And I'm sorry to be vague on that. I'm repeating back what our consultant had let us know. And the main reason that came up is because as we've had rains, there's been different situations where over time, different seals on the building, we're getting water intrusion. And so we're trying to start at the source there and stop those repairs before they are needed. The last element is one of the HVAC replacements. A lot of the times we've done those. We just wanted to, since we're bringing up all these different items, this particular one will utilize Desert Air. And so, and that one, that's in line based on the size with what we've had with prior purchases of the HVAC equipment. So basically, just if you have questions, let me know. Otherwise, we just want to let you know these are things that we're working through that'll be utilizing the annual budget. The exception being that HVAC replacement, that would be something we'd capitalize, but these others are just going to be on the normal operating budget. And happy to answer any questions you may have. Good.
Action item. Global healthcare unit operating agreements.
Yep. So what we have here, two addendum number ones for each of the mobile healthcare unit operating agreements. So when we first started working with DPMG in the past, there was two elements. There was the grant funding side, and there was the operating agreement. So this is focused just on the operating agreement itself. Each of those agreements allowed for multiple two-year extensions. And so now that those grants have come to an end and those operating agreements have ended, we would just like to extend the first of the two-year extensions for both the units. And that way it would be beneficial for DPMG to continue to utilize those units at community events until a new grant application, which is anticipated, could be submitted. So there's two different addendums, one for each of those respective agreements. Recommend approval of those to continue that operation.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Public comments. None? All in favor?
Aye.
That closes out. I'll adjourn our district finance meeting and I will go straight to opening up the finance meeting for the Desert Healthcare Foundation.